Hey, good evening and welcome back to Beyond the Trailer Park. Sorry we're a little late there. The great Murphy was fucking around with us, as you know he likes to do on occasion. We've sort of got things sorted out, at least workable for now. So, you know, here we are. And all the way from Pennsylvania, good evening, Beth. Could take her a second to unmute herself.
Greetings. I think I figured out the problem.
Oh, good. Excellent. Excellent. Yeah, she was the problem this time. Triss was wondering if Morgan had brought the old NRR equipment issues with her, but no, it was Beth's fault this time.
No, not this time. Usually it's me, but no, not this time.
And I am lucky I haven't had anything wrecked by this little cute fellow. Say hi, Mr. Vlad. He says, I'm sleepy.
Oh no.
Yeah. He's keeping me company. Go back to sleep, little guy. Flop. So had to show off the kitten, you know. I've only been posting about him on Facebook for the last 3 days, so you know. But anyway, yeah, Beth, before we started, you were updating us on some of the happenings with our favorite woo idiot, Jill Epperly. Do you want to fill us in on what's happened since last week's show?
Yeah, well, poop cult leader, aka Jillian Epperly, did receive a warning letter from the FTC basically telling her she cannot make claims. She is interpreting it as she cannot make claims on her website. Her books are safe, which is not the case. If you were to go to Katie Paulson's website, I will throw the link up later. I don't have it handy. She's on Pathos. She breaks it down really well. It's basically any written material that you make a claim unsubstantiated, you have to have the science to back it up. Now, her idea of science is, of course, Google University. Okay, she has no peer-reviewed scientific journal papers to support her claims. And I've been, throughout the week, I have both her books now. I've been picking through and her books pulling out claims as I'm researching other stuff. But basically, she's trying to comply, but in my personal opinion, she's having a really, really hard time because she thinks basically that the FTC warning is a joke. If she does not comply to the FTC's satisfaction, she's facing a $41,000 plus per day fine. She's unemployed. Her husband, I believe, is a trucker. So, yeah, they're not going to have the money to pay a $41,000 per day fine. But yeah, she's changing things around on her website, and her Facebook posts are the same thing. Now she's basically, to put it simply, claiming religious liberty. She has
everybody does.
She has free speech. God damn it! Well, yes, you do.
Yeah.
But see, when you're advertising, which she is doing, saying buy my book, your claims have to be substantiated.
You have free speech, but you can't say, oh, drinking this mercury is totally harmless. Go for it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you have free speech up to the point the law says you don't. And advertising is a regulated business. So you are bound by those laws. That's why there was a recent case in the last year or so, maybe 2 years now, of an Amish dude that was making salves, selling them. He wasn't making any outlandish claims, but it was an untested product. And basically, this is what I believe is doing, is making these claims. And I mean, we've all seen the Dr. Phil show where, basically she goes, well, one thing I noted the other day was, she says, well, I don't say anywhere in my book that you can regrow limbs. Chapter 22, title, Regrow Your Limbs.
Oh, for fuck's sakes.
I mean, that's how, and the thing is, I've read both her books, and now I'm picking through them to pull out certain things. And even at my worst, when I first had my stroke, I was not that fucking stupid. I mean, she point blank, I don't say you can regrow. I say you have the potential. What do you think potential is, dumbass?
And if you remember, her whole reason for believing there's a potential to regrow limbs is the fact that certain reptiles and such can regrow limbs.
I mean, it gets really bizarre as I'm digging into. Right now I'm working, I've done 2 posts. I did one based on our show last week. Then I did another one primarily digging into her stuff that I didn't include. I didn't put it in the first post because that one was like long. Well, the second post was I think was actually longer once you throw the graphics in there. But most people know I'm very verbose. But I'm working on a third post, and I have 10 outlined, where basically she talks about the pink Himalayan salt. And what people don't realize is that pink Himalayan salt is not from the Himalayas, like Mount Everest. It's from the Himalaya mountain range, which runs for 3,000 miles. It's actually from Kiwar, Pakistan. It's actually 180 or so odd miles from the Himalayas, which, okay, technically it is, but it is not what we think of as the Himalayas. Yeah. So that's one strike against it having any sacred bullshit to it, which she has said in a post. And then she's like, she actually has a post totally dishing the fact that the reason I stopped using it as a cooking ingredient, and yes, I can be kind of snobby about my salts when I can afford them. And the reason I stopped is I found out that they are mined by child labor. Brutal child labor. She totally disregards that.
Well, if she doesn't care if people are getting strokes and possibly dying from her stupid juice, she's not going to care about child labor.
Yeah, she goes, when asked her opinion on this by group members, Jillian was nonplussed. She doesn't care. She expects the exploited people in Pakistan to stick up for themselves. This is a perfect example of first world privilege. And, it's from a quote I kifed. I have it. Yeah, so she really doesn't care. And then she talks about all these special properties of salt. Well, guess what, people? Salt is salt. It doesn't matter where the fuck it comes from. It's still NaCl.
And it's got sodium in it.
Yeah, I mean, it's still sodium chloride. And actually been scientifically demonstrated that man can't drink seawater, which it has a 3.5% salinity. And I'm pretty sure her juice comes pretty damn close to that, if not over it.
Yeah, it's like brine.
Yeah, basically, it's even worse than brine because I brine chicken.
Okay.
So, and I use 2 teaspoons to brine 1 chicken. So,
okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, then she's like saying, well, you can rehydrate with water. Well, guess what? Guess what the worst substance on the planet for rehydration when you lose salt and electrolytes is?
Water.
Water. You know what the best, or one of the best, is? Milk. Guess what's not on her diet?
Milk.
Milk. So yeah, that's what I've been doing. I mean, I'm not going to get into the physiological aspects of sodium. That's way above my pay grade. And
My dumb ass was gonna say Pedialyte.
yeah, Pedialyte is actually on the list for rehydration when you're losing.
I believe it. Yeah.
Okay.
And stuff like Pedialyte and Gatorade are verboten on her, and her diet is very restricted. But it's so contradictory because she says, well, it doesn't have to be organic chicken, for example. You're allowed chicken. That's the only meat you are allowed. Chicken and eggs are the only animal protein you're allowed. And she says, you know, GMO or non-GMO is fine. Which she's an anti-vaxxer and she's into this whole clean eating movement. Well, she contradicted herself within like 2 words. You can't be clean eating and say, well, you can eat chicken. Now, the caveat to that is she is being kind of gentle to people that, like me, live in a food insecure area. We have one grocery store where I live. And trust me, even if I still did eat organic, I wouldn't be able to afford it here. It's like 5 times what you would pay in the city. So, and that's why she does that. But she's also like, she says how special salt, this Himalayan salt is because it has all these trace minerals in it. Yeah, the same fucking ingredients that are in vaccines that you're so against, dumbass.
Yeah.
Plus radioactive substances. So yeah, it's been a mind trip because it's like, I actually found studies that one study, well, it was not so much a study, but an analysis of this of the various mines in Pakistan that mine this Himalayan salt, and it was like, it's like, who knew shit like that was out there? But yeah. So who knows what's gonna happen? I have speculations that I've been talking about in the groups I'm in. But yeah, she really, to me, she's basically going down the road of Jim Jones and David Koresh and Applewhite. I mean, she is a cult leader. I mean, and it's just really scary to see some of the shit because regardless of what the law considers with the Bruce Wilmot case, I mean, she's going to kill somebody. And I'm not discounting Bruce's case. I do think she's responsible, but that's, you know, if it gets to the courts, that's where the courts decide, not me. But she's going to kill somebody because there are people in her group that are giving it to their kids and bragging about it. And that's where my issue is. And, you know, most people know that I was friends with Acharya S. And one of the biggest issues I had, I mean, that kind of came between me and Acharya was the fact that she went woo-mooster on her cancer treatment, doing high dose vitamin C and something else that had no proven efficacy or safety studies. And within a year of her diagnosis, she was dead. Now, I will throw out that the type of breast cancer she had was very aggressive, but she eschewed all modern medicine. So this is why, you know, and one of the ladies I'm friends with in the group, you know, she herself didn't try it, but she lost a friend, not physically lost, but a friend of hers fell for this crap and their friendship ended, and they were friends for over 20 years, I believe, if I remember correctly. So, I mean, it's destroying lives, and that's, to me, is, you know, that alone is bad enough, but the fact that there are people that are giving it to their kids. So hopefully the FTC will stay on their toes as far as medical boards. As I said in the group today, there's really not, I don't think, a whole lot we can do because she's not a licensed medical practitioner in any way, shape, or form. She's not a scientist. She doesn't work in a lab or have any credentials that way, so you can't go that route. There have been comments that people are giving it to their dog, her specifically. So we have contacted the FTC.
How the hell would you get a dog to eat that crap?
Yeah, I would like to know that myself because my cat, I have backup cat food that he does not like. and I did not get my food stamps until Saturday. So for 2 days, I didn't have his cat food because I didn't want to spend the last of my cash in case I needed it for something. And I'm not saying that my cat isn't important, but I was doing a balancing act. He would not eat this fucking food. So he went without food for 2.5 days because he didn't like it. So no animal is going to eat something they don't like.
No.
So it scares me as to how she is getting her dog to allegedly drink this stuff or eat it or whatever. I'm guessing she probably mixes it in with his food.
I just hope she's not like forcing it with a syringe or some shit like that.
Yeah, that thought crossed my mind, and
Or she's just lying.
Well, let's hope she's lying.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of salt that's in her concoction, if she is drinking it as she says she is, I'm sorry, but she would be fucking dead. So I don't think she is drinking it. Or if she is, I think, and this is just my personal observation based on, being part of the system and knowing bulimic and anorexic, I think she's a bulimic, and bulimics don't just vomit, they will purge the other way using laxatives. The salt concoction with the high content in fiber from the cabbage would be a laxative. I think she's a bulimic. Because she's made posts where she says, oh, I feel much better now, I purged. Along that line. So it's like, yeah, you're a bulimic bitch. But she's still dangerous because she's talking other people into doing this shit. Literally. Shit. But yeah.
There's a couple of good comments. So hi, Randy. He's over in the chat, and he said, in regards to the whole FDA stuff, he says soon she'll be slapping for entertainment purposes only on everything. And yeah, go ahead.
She does have, and this is how you know it's not legitimate. I mean, it's a quack site. She has the Quack Miranda on her site.
Yeah.
It says, you need to consult your doctor, blah, 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 and this is not to diagnose or treat. And that's the funny thing. The Quack Miranda states it's not for treatment, yada, 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 but yet she's saying, oh, yeah, this will reverse your diabetes. This will reverse. And that's the thing. And this is the one that really, really gets to me is she has a, quote, testimonial. That's her research, by the way. So all her little minions are fucking guinea pigs. There's a lady in her that uses her quote protocol to treat her type 1 diabetes, and she tried going off her medication using just chili juice and promptly ended up in the hospital within 3 days with ketoacidosis.
And let me tell you, ketoacidosis sucks ass.
Yes. As Deb and I have both had it.
Yes.
And we're type 2. We're not in, well, Deb does you use insulin, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Deb uses insulin. I am not insulin dependent yet. It's probably coming, but yeah, this woman vacation thinking chili juice would cure her.
Yeah.
And the sad thing is, she had only been home from the hospital maybe 6-7 months, maybe a little longer. And she's like, yeah, I'm weaning back on my medication so I can do it again. Didn't you learn the first fucking time? I mean, this is... And the thing is, like, I don't know if y'all... I did a post on Black Salve. And you got people doing it with the Black Salve, urine therapy, which we're going to hit probably in a month or two. I'm still digging out information. The same fucking bullshit. And I'm not talking the Muslim drinking camel piss bullshit. I'm talking the piss that comes out of your own body.
Drinking your own, or some people I've heard asking about, can they drink their kids' piss? I was like, oh,
they think it's better.
It's like more pure or some shit.
Yeah, more pure. Yeah. So yeah, that's coming probably in a month. I'm usually a little behind because it takes me a while to gather information. I hate calling it research, but to gather information. I mean, a lot of people don't realize I do actually do work, but yeah, it's just it's bizarre. I mean, there's some really whacked out woo. I mean, with the black salve now, people are taking it internally in dried capsule form. It's like, yeah, you want to talk about leaky gut? You're gonna have one. People are putting it up their hoo-hoo to treat cervical cancer. So, yeah, it's. The funny thing is, I mean, since I had gotten sick, writing about anything has been really difficult. I haven't found anything to pique my interest, so to speak. So this has kind of been a jolt that I needed because this is just crazy. I mean, today she's like, she posts, and so I don't. Oh God, I don't have my period yet, and I thought I'm going to get it yesterday, but no. I will let you know when I get it because my whole point is to not have my period anymore, which is basically amenorrhea. I am trying to induce amenorrhea simply by changing the biochemistry of my body, blah, 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 blah. Now, for those of that you don't know, amenorrhea is very prevalent among our Olympic gymnasts because they train so much. But when they stop gymnastics at an Olympic competitive level, they will eventually restart. Well, she wants to stop hers because she believes that the earlier you menstruate as a woman, the shorter your lifespan. It's going to be because menstruation is a sign that the body knows it's in the death trajectory. And then she goes on this rant about then, and I think this is why she has no kids or doesn't want kids.
Because she says that if you're able to procreate, that means basically your body's started to die and it knows it needs to replicate itself.
Yeah. So it's like, and she's claimed you can live to 400. So it's really bizarre. And to tie it into tonight's show, so I could go on about this shit for hours. Is that you think this is stupid? You should see some of the stupid questions we all get asked as atheists.
Yep. I did want to say Trish says Black Sav is a great name for a band. I gotta agree. It sounds pretty good for that. Yeah, Vlad agrees. Don't ya? Say hello, Mr. Vlad. Our little tiny kitten. Anyway, yes, we have had some doozy dumbass question. Oh, Randy says that in reference to her trying to get rid of her period, wouldn't a hysterectomy be easier?
You would think, but I really, from what I can tell, from what I've read, and I've gone through her timeline back to 2016-ish, the beginning of, which is when she started this bullshit. There's no mention of going to the doctor.
Yeah.
Take that as you will. I mean, it could just be not something she just doesn't speak about, which is fine. But I have a feeling, I know she doesn't believe in allopathic medicine, as she calls it. She also rails against homeopathy and naturopathy. Of course, she sees them as competition. But yeah, she rails against any other medical establishment, whether it be other woo-woo, or the quote, Western medicine. In fact, I think she's actually ranted against Chinese medicine, what we call traditional Chinese medicine, which, basically started in 1955. So there's no tradition in it.
Yeah.
It's like, thank Chairman Mao for that. But yeah, it's crazy. It's funny, but it's free, and it's like, seriously, I gotta get some fucking sleep, man. It's like, I finally slept yesterday. It was like, oh my god. I mean, I'm like obsessed with this, but I consider it a good obsession. So,
Well, there's a lot to unpack there, for sure.
mhm.
We should
I
just
mean,
burn the whole suitcase instead of
Yes.
unpacking it,
Burn
in
the
my
suit-
opinion.
well, and the thing, I mean, not only do you have to unpack her books, which are just terrible, even from a writing level, for misspellings and misstatements. The misinformation alone is just mind-boggling. But then you have her Facebook Live videos. And I do not listen to them unless I absolutely have to. Some of the people in group do listen to them, kind of like Deb and I when we did Alex Jones and Ken Ham. She just is... she's one of those ones that I watched like 2 videos and I'm like, oh, fuck no. They were even worse than Hovind and Ham. It's just,
and that's saying a lot because those are pretty awful.
well, I've been calling her word speak as Saladese.
Yeah.
It's just, talk about stream of consciousness. I mean, I kind of do that, but I 99.9% of the time do actually have a point as long as I get to it before I forget it. She really doesn't have a point. She just goes.
Rambles.
I mean, free association is not an issue with that woman. But, I mean, yeah. And then you have her Facebook posts that you have to unpack. So it's like, we don't have 1 suitcase, we have 3. So, yeah. It's a trip. Trip. Where you going, little boy?
Somebody desperately wanted to go play elsewhere. And he's far too little to be running loose in the house yet.
Yeah, give him a week.
Yeah, well, he's only 6 weeks old, and normally I wouldn't have even considered having him already, but he's completely litter trained and eating kibble like a boss. So,
well, yeah, I mean, Zorro did the same thing, which thankfully I was glad of because I got him at 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And so that's good that he picked. I mean, and he picked it up at about 4 weeks. So, which was a good thing.
Vlad's a smart little turkey, that's for sure. But he's not quite grasped object permanence yet. It's kind of funny. One of us leaves the room and he has a conniption. So we try to do it when he's not looking. Because if we vanish and he doesn't see us go, he's fine. But if he sees us go, he starts crying his little head off. But
yes, yeah. But
oh well. All right. So stupid question. And it's funny. I was a trainer for a number of years, which teaching adults, and in that capacity, I always used to tell people, in my classes that there's no such thing as a stupid question. And then I started debating people on the internet, and I don't say that anymore. Funny enough. So, who wants to start with a doozy?
okay, Morgan.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, I need to start with a doozy, I guess. I have been told, literally, I have been asked, if I'm an atheist, does that mean I worship the devil?
I get that all the time.
Uh-huh.
We all do.
It's like, no, I don't believe in him either, but he does seem a lot cooler.
Exactly.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you look at just in terms of the Bible, he doesn't kill anybody that he wasn't told to kill, right?
Yeah, but it's gotten to a point where, like, when one of my friends asked me to, like, say, he's like, they'll be like, do you want to say the blessing? And they'll be sarcastic, of course, but I'll start bowing my head and I'll be like, dear our dark Lord and Father, from whom all curses flow, thank you for your darkness and blessings. And they'll all be like, no, stop it.
We've got our big sausage cat here now. This is, you should have seen, the little one was chasing her around the house yesterday.
How'd that go over?
Oh, it was funny. Callie just ran and was like, get away, get away. And the little guy's like, but I want to be your friend and play with you. In fact, that's why he was all in a tizzy to get off the desk. He saw her and wanted to jump on the floor and go play.
Smart cat.
Yep. But anyway, yeah. Triss says Satan has better music. You got that right, Triss. You ever heard Christian rock?
Did I tell you how many concerts I went to in my day?
Well, no, but put it in perspective. I mean, Seth Andrews used to DJ it, so you're not alone.
Let's just say it was over 30.
I believe it. Hey,
I saw Petra, the same concert, 5 different places.
Damn.
Yeah, I was a stupid motherfucker.
I loved Amy Grant for a few years, so, you know.
I liked her until I met her. She came to my college, and in our dorm, our quote hotel is the basement of our dorm. We have some rooms that are separate, and she came through our main lounge, and this was like 1:32 in the morning. It was pretty late, and talk about diva. Now, supposedly she's gotten past that, but yeah, that always turned me off. But yeah, I used to play Amy Grant on the piano, so.
And I remember the other big one at the time was Michael W. Smith.
Good old Michael. Friends are friends forever.
Oh, yes. Oh,
wait, are you talking about Amy Grant, like the singer?
Yeah. She used to be.
Oh, we were taught in school that she was a whore. I'm not even joking.
Well, she was trying to cross over. Even that would have been around her crossover time when she was trying to get out, to get into mainstream music, and not so much.
No, we heard that she was like fucking everybody, and she was just like all this stuff. But I don't know if that's true or not. It's probably just like Southern people talking about nonsense that's slightly true, but they tend to over-exaggerate it just a bit.
Like, I know she had a failed marriage, but I don't think
that was it. That's why they were like, she's a whore.
Yeah, that probably was around the time when her marriage went south. So,
but I think, we're like, she's still a whore because she had a failed marriage.
Well, they say the same thing about Sandy Patty, who, vocally I do admire, because I if you've ever heard her rendition of the Star Spangled Banner, it's just an Amazing Grace. I mean, yeah, I like Amazing Grace. It's just absolutely, from a vocal standpoint and from a talent standpoint, it's just there's nobody out there that can even touch her. Now, maybe now she's like almost probably 60, 70 years old, so her vocal range is, but she hasn't, sang in years. But yeah, I mean, there were some really talented people, but it's just like, your lyrics suck.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
But yeah, the Satan thing is just my favorite comeback is, first of all, which form of Satanist am I? And they're like, what? It's like, well, you do realize there's atheistic Satanism, i.e., Church, Temple of Satan, and the Church of Satan. I said, and there's also theistic Satan, who actually believe that, who are the antithesis of Christianity, where Church of Satan and Satanic Temple see it as a archetype. And they're like, huh? And then I said, now, which form of theistic Satan are you talking about? Because there's actually 3 forms of theistic Satanism. There's Luciferianism is one of them, and then there's regular, what we know is Satanism, and then there's the, quote, so-called satanic ritual abuse, and it goes off the rails after that. But it's like, and they're just like I can just see them staring at their screen, just going.
Yeah.
Because you're like, what the fuck is she talking about? And that's the thing that drives me crazy when they
She
use
must be
that.
worshiping the devil to know so much.
And it's not a question, but it goes hand in hand with this, is that, oh, you serve Satan whether you think you do or not, because you don't serve God.
Or if it's not Jesus, it's Satan. So I'm like, your card's not Jesus. Is that Satan? Like, what? That doesn't make any sense. If it's not Jesus, it is Satan. I'm like, there's lots of things that are not Jesus.
It could be Vishnu, for all you know. Satan.
That's Satan.
Yep.
That's Satan too.
So's, Odin, Thor, Osiris.
Satan.
Name it. Yep. Could it be Satan?
My favorite line from Saturday Night Live.
Yep.
But I mean, that's
okay. So here's the question I've always had, because we're told for ages and ages, Satan is the father of lies. When did Satan ever lie? Ever?
Exactly. Because if you look at it, especially from the Jewish tradition, our concept of Satan, the Christian concept of Satan, is totally different than the Jewish concept of Satan. And the funny thing is, if you look at the Old Testament, Satan never did lie.
Nope.
Ever. He was known as the adversary. He was basically the prosecutor for God. He was always questioning, the loyalty, for Job, Job as an example. But he never lied.
Mm-hmm.
How many times have we heard the term liars for Jeebus?
Yeah, a lot.
I mean, David Barton, I think every word out of his mouth is a lie.
Yeah.
I mean, he intentionally...
I don't even believe his name's David Barton.
Yeah, I mean, not to get political here, but Kavanaugh, he's a strict Roman Catholic, but yet, it's like every time, I mean, it's like you question, the whole, the creation evolution debate.
Yeah.
You get in a discussion with a creationist, especially a young earth creationist, they intentionally take studies, legitimate studies, and twist them so badly that if you can't get a hold of it to actually read yourself, you're like, what the fuck are you talking about?
They twist what information they do manage to read, and they twist it around to say something it doesn't.
Well, it's like the one quote to drop the Darwin quote concerning the eye. They leave off the last half of the paragraph.
Where they focus on the part where he's like, I didn't think there was any way that an eye could evolve because it's so complex. I'm paraphrasing. And then the next paragraph is, but boy, was I wrong, because here's how it happened.
And they leave that half off. It's like, seriously, dude. I mean,
and it's like, okay, so, and let's flip it over to Islam. There's one verse that says, there's a few, but there's one in particular they love to trot out that says, if a believer kills one person, it's as if they've killed the whole world. Mm-hmm. But with two things they leave out is that the beginning of that quote says it's for Israelites, like their Allah, whatever, is addressing Jewish people specifically.
Right.
And then the second half is, but if people, don't believe, or if they fight you, which who knows what that means, that's kind of nebulous, then kill them all,
Yeah.
So they leave out the extra parts. Or Another one they love to trot out is there's no compulsion in religion. That which they're trying to say is, well, no one's going to make you be a Muslim, or no one's going to force you to be a Muslim. 99% of the fucking Quran is Allah threatening you with all the bad shit he's going to do to you if you don't become a Muslim and kiss his ass. That's coercion, people. It doesn't have to come from other Muslims. Your stupid God wants to do all kinds of nasty shit to you if you believe that crap.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just ridiculous. They lie all the time, lie by omission, lie directly. It's just, or lie by knowingly falsely interpreting something. It just goes on and on and on. But Satan's the evil liar. No.
Well, yeah, and that's when they say it, it's Satan. I was like, well, you're taking absolutely no personal responsibility for your actions. You're blaming somebody else. You're blaming Satan, and that's what's so annoying about that argument. Is like, or if they do something good, like this one guy I was talking to in Crazy Group, it was a little while ago. He was like, "Yeah, I was shot in the face, and I'm all better, yada yada." And I thank God for that. Jesus did all. I'm like, so Jesus did all the blood, sweat, and tears that you went through for rehab.
Yeah.
And I said to him, "You're not giving yourself any credit for your recovery."
Or what I think is even worse is people, like, somebody recovers from an illness, like, thank you, Jesus. Like, yeah, fuck the doctors that spent all that time and, surgery and whatever, healing the person. Yeah, those guys don't matter. It was Jesus.
Well, that's what I got from one of my friends. Don't think it was a relative. But it was right around Thanksgiving, and they said, "Oh, you have a lot to be thankful for." And I'm like, "Really?" I said, "I do, huh?" So who do I thank for the fact it takes me a half hour to put my pants and peonies on? Who do I thank for the fact that I drool like a motherfucker? Who do I thank for the fact that speaking at the time is difficult and cognitive thought is difficult? Who do I thank for that? I said, no. Jesus had nothing to do with my fucking recovery, because I'm not recovered after this was 4 months, 5 months. It's like, yeah, get real.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. So, ladies, why do you hate God?
Who?
I said, why do you hate God?
Oh, I get the because my mother, like, literally, it's the God's not dead plot where, like, my mother literally died of cancer when I was a child. And so they're like, it's because of your mother. I don't know why I gave him a chain smoker voice, but that's what they say. Because of your mother. And I'm like, yes, that's all it was that's why I waited, like, 13 years after the fact to become an atheist. Nailed it.
Yeah.
I've gotten, why do I hate God? And it's like, well, I said, I have nothing that I could really blame it on, like, like in your case, Morgan. But I think what's funny is with Morgan's case, if somebody were to say, oh, it's because, yada, 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 I'd be like, oh, so the fact that my Christian relative made a untoward comment to me at 10 years old, that justifies it. It's like, just because something bad happened, it doesn't mean this is. I said, if that's the case, I should be married to my cousin.
Yeah.
Which is a really scary thought. Just because he's a.
Well, I'll just say, first of all, I can't hate something I know doesn't exist.
Yeah,
exactly.
I hate what it stands for, and I hate what people do with it and all of that, but I don't hate your stupid God any more than I hate Darth Vader or fucking Voldemort.
Yeah.
In fact, I think I would hate those figures more because at least they resonate some kind of emotional connection with me.
Yeah.
As works of art that I have followed throughout the years. But yeah, with God, I'm just like, eh.
Well,
But yeah, again, it's just like the Christians who say that pisses me the fuck off because they all use my dead mother as a fucking excuse, and I'm like, get her name out of your fucking mouth, first of all. But yeah,
yeah, that would piss me off if somebody did that because that's like really crass.
Totally.
yeah, it is. And it's like you don't know anything about my life, but here you are gonna make freaking assumptions about me. Like isn't that what Jesus said that you shouldn't do? But go off, I guess.
Chris says my parents are still alive, yet I'm an atheist. I must be doing it wrong. Yep, Tris, you're totally atheisting wrong. I'm sorry.
Well, that's the thing. Like in my case, I mean, mom passed 4 years ago, but my parents are as close to being preachers as you can be without actually being preachers. But yet, not only am I, a lesbian, I am an atheist. It's like, yeah, we got a problem there.
Well, I've had people be, if they find out that I am a child abuse survivor, then, oh, well, that's why. I'm like, no, I got way more religious after that than I ever was before.
Well, yeah. The term I like to throw out is like, oh, you're gay because no, or you were abused by a male. Like, well,
you crapped out for a second. I got as far as I'm an atheist because, or a lesbian because, and
well, yeah, they'll say, well, you're a lesbian because you were raped by a man, and I'm like, no, actually, I was raped by a female. So theoretically, according to your theory, I should be straight,
and I should be a lesbian.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, this being angry at somebody from your past for something you're doing now is bullshit. And it's like, you can't be angry at something that you either know or have determined, over the course of many years does not exist. And like, you talk to anyone that has traversed the getting out of religion. A lot of them go through it, being agnostic, and some finally, eventually, and I think you know who I'm referring to, but I don't want to say it publicly, will become atheists. So it's not like, oh, I'm angry at God. For some of us, it's taken a long time. For Deb, it took not too long. For me, it took a lot longer because I had a lot more bullshit to get through.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, yeah, that's gotta be one of the most lamest.
Oh yeah, it's just ridiculous. And Morgan's just having a software issue. She said she'll be right back. In case notice that she's not showing up on the screen anymore. She'll be right back because Murphy's being a bastard this evening.
Yes, he is.
Well, at least you two, knock on wood, I haven't had any problems yet.
Yeah, I don't know where. I'm thinking I have on the front, and I'm thinking they decided to take a crap. But it didn't. I plugged it into my other USB, and it didn't work either. So I think my headphones have taken a crap.
So, that's not good. Awesome.
Well, at least now, in a couple of weeks, I'll have a means of hopefully getting a new pair of headphones.
Well, so far, we've decided that we don't actually hate God.
Right.
Beth, you haven't got a question yet. What have you got?
You guys keep stealing my questions, so
sorry.
Well, I think it's because they're so common, but it's not necessarily a question.
If anybody, Triss or Randy or anybody else out there wants to throw a question out, we'll be happy to entertain it too.
I think my question is when the whole morals issue. And if you remember our episode with Mike Wiseman, one of the things he brought up was the killing of children in the Bible.
Yes.
And, the argument to us is we have no more, how can you have morals when you don't have an objective moral authority? I like to turn it around, and I'm pretty sure everybody else does too, is how can you follow a God that kills innocent children? And then it's like, they're like, oh no, it's like, how it's more of a statement.
And well, as Randy says, it's the where do you get your morals from?
Yes, thank you.
Or another way it's phrased often is, how could you possibly say anything is wrong if you're an atheist? Because you can't say anything is wrong. Like, fuck you. First of all, you're wrong.
Yeah. Well, I think what drives me nuts about that question is not even the whole objective morality issue, but they ignore the fact that we as humans, whether you believe in evolution or not, we are a social species. We have never been solitary. We've always been in groups of 2 or 3 or more. And the last thing you want to do when you're in a group, even now, like when you're out with friends, is do something that's going to ostracize yourself from that group. So you're going to conform to their actions so you don't get kicked out of the group.
Yeah.
Now, if you're like me, I don't really give a flying fuck. So, but that's how we determine what's right and wrong. And yes,
empathy, compassion, all of those things.
You go to any society worldwide, including Aborigines, you're going to find when you kill somebody, you're going to get ostracized. There is going to be, how did Aborigines come to kicking people out of their culture? Yes, there are going to be cultural differences, especially among indigenous tribes, where they might not frown upon something like incest among consenting adults.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a difference, and they don't find that delineation. They just assume that when you say incest, for example, you're talking about father-daughter, and the daughter being under 18. As bizarre as I think adult incest is, I don't really give a fuck. If they want to do it, so be it. But they're not going to be part of my social circle. That's being ostracized. Yeah. And that is a powerful force in our society.
And look at, let's talk about the pedophile thing, because there are, and I know there's some people that are trying to push back now because they're fucking idiots, but if somebody were to come out and say, oh, hi, I'm sexually attracted to children, they would get the shit kicked out of them. They would get thrown out of wherever they lived. When sex offenders get out of jail, many places don't know what to do with them because no one wants them. And that's almost it. And actually that's what goes to show you that there really isn't a deterrent against certain things. And if they can get away with it, even though they know the consequences of, they will be banished from society, they will be maligned, they will be assaulted, possibly even killed, and they still do it anyway. But that's what society has done. Like, we've decided that that's such an egregious action or even desire to have, that we're going to treat you like worse than dog shit on a sidewalk. And in many cases, that's rightly deserved. And that's how we've decided that. And yet these theist assholes are, well, you can't say that's wrong because God. I'm like, no, I can fucking say it's wrong, and I do. And it's just like, and they don't even understand that there is no objective standard of morality. There just isn't, because their God, if you believe any of their scriptures, changed his fucking mind all the time.
Oh, that's another one.
Yeah, but that's why they want to say, well, it's objective. Well, no, it's not. If you're telling me that that's wrong because God says it's wrong, that's right there, not objective. That's subjective to what he thinks is wrong.
Exactly. And they just don't get it. I mean, it's just like, I mean, no matter how you the issue of pedophilia, there is no right way to look at it. You can't, I mean, even barring the whole morality issue, because, I mean, the whole thing with pedophilia, by definition, is children.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know of any society, past or present, I may be wrong, so correct me if I am, and Deb, you're the history nerd, so I don't know of any society where fucking a kid has been accepted.
There are some right now, like Pakistan. There's a whole culture in Pakistan of street boys being used as substitutes for women.
But would you say that's a innate, like a biological thing, or is that
no? It's because of their backwards fucking Muslim.
I'm saying what I'm saying from a biological evolutionary standpoint.
No. It's because of weird cultural hang-ups about normal sex.
Right. And so, I mean, there's always some type of outside influence.
Yeah, because they're not supposed to. It's mostly in Muslim circles, and because they're not supposed to even look at a woman sideways, and there's more niqabis and burqa wearing women in Pakistan than some other parts of that area. And they're just not available they can't date or anything like that. So single guy or whatever, I don't even know if it's just single guys, but men who aren't able to get their needs met normally are going off and pressuring these poor boys into poor in both ways, into being basically little prostitutes.
Yeah. That's more of a outside influence.
And I know it happens in other countries too. That was just the one that came to mind because
I mean, and that would have to be something that we would have to examine to see what is, if there is a cause, for them,
right.
I mean, what makes us different from animals in a sense, because pretty much an animal will fuck anything that moves.
Yeah.
I mean, incest to them is non-existent. Why,
Not even. I had a rabbit years ago that was so horny. He used to try and fuck the cat.
Yeah, I had one years and years ago. So it's like, where's that distinction between animal? I know on an evolutionary scale, we are technically great apes.
We are animals, yes. But we are we're a higher order animal, I guess.
Right. So yeah, I mean, I'm not, but generally speaking, without the weirdness of, i.e. Pakistan, their cultural beliefs, I mean, for the most part.
And where actual pedophiles have tried to band together like NAMBLA and try and normalize their shit, the people aren't having it. They're just like, no, fuck you. I mean, look at that guy that I had on Facebook who's arguing with me that I was being bigoted toward pedophiles. And
and that's the thing. If there was a large percentage of the population that felt that pedophilia was okay, then maybe we might, but generally speaking, it's frowned upon by everybody in this country.
In most places in the world.
Yeah, so it's like collectively, as as Americans, or in your case Canadian, as citizens of the world, we have determined through our social order that fucking is wrong, just as we have determined that killing another person is wrong.
Well, yeah, and what it comes down to is realizing that something is harmful. For instance, 150 years ago, it was thought that children over a certain age were old enough to work and they should get out and get a job and help support their family. And that's why we had children working in sweatshops and factories, in the Industrial Revolution and whatnot. And then as behavioral science grew and medicine grew, and we became to understand more about how children are and how they grow and their mental abilities grow and all of that, we began to realize that making children work and I'm not talking, we all think that having chores and things that are age appropriate are good for them, but sending a 6-year-old for a 12-hour factory job was just incredibly harmful. Once we understood that, we started to forbid allowing children under certain age to work adult jobs. And that's how we do it.
What's really bizarre about that, that example, is that there are some within the theocratic right that want to eliminate child labor laws. They feel they should be able to employ anybody, and they don't, as young as, I think the lowest age I have seen is 11, 12 years old. But not only that, they want to eliminate, women's right to vote, African Americans' right to vote. They want to eliminate what we would call a civil rights law. And it's like, and these so-called theocratic, Christian right people think there's no problem with that. It's like, you think that's moral?
Yeah.
You think that's right?
And there are people who would say, "Oh, we're just," they would poo-poo all of the decades of research and just say, "Oh, we're just coddling our children's too much," and blah blah blah. No, we have definitive evidence that shows that treating children like mini adults is harmful to their development. And
the response I usually get is, "Oh, well, that's the way it is in the Bible. That's where we get our." It's like, yeah. And you wonder why I have a problem with the Bible, because you're following a book that's 2,000 fucking years old, trumping recent research and scientific papers and behavioral studies that prove or demonstrate, however you want to use the word, that what we are doing or what we did to children back in the 1800s, early 1900s was fucking harmful. But you think what the Bible says is A-okay, and you're moral?
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
And I think what skews it, we look at what is, quote, harmful in terms of how it affects other people.
Mm-hmm.
Theists tend to look at what is, quote, harmful in terms of what might piss off God.
Exactly. They really, in a sense, lack, and you use the term, empathy. And I'm always reminded, especially when I get into discussions like this, is, Kelly will appreciate this, but when Spock would save the ship in the Wrath of Khan, and I lost the fucking quote.
The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one.
And what people don't realize is that's actually a paraphrase from Jeremy Bentham.
Who's that?
Jeremy Bentham was a philosopher back in the, I want to say 1850-ish. I might have him too far back. Okay. But basically, he was a utilitarian, and, you know, basically that was his thing, you know, the need. When that line came out in that movie, I remember it was like, yeah, that fucking makes sense. You know, it's like, I was always a fan of the Spock character because in some ways my brain works the same way Spock's does and Data's. So they're my two favorite characters. Besides Marina Sirtis, but that's a whole other ballgame. But yeah, it's like people. I mean, theists think that's like totally just like bizarre. I mean, it's like I point blank asked one person I was debating in one of the groups, and I said, if God came down and told you to kill your child, would you do it? And he goes, well, yeah, if God told me to. I'm like, oh, Jesus fucking Christ. And I know people have run into that. It's like,
yeah.
I'm like, no. And then they usually throw back the whole trolley debate. Do you know that one?
Oh yeah, it's there's a bunch of people on a track on one side, and when like usually it's a fat person, isn't it?
Oh, it's a fat person. Well, there's a couple versions of it. There's one person on one track and 5 people on another track, and you have to decide which switch to throw to change the train or trolley, or you can throw a fat person off the bridge to save on the track. There's a couple versions of it, and it's like I always say, well, my one facetious reply to that is, well, I'll throw the switch halfway and derail the train.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one is, well, whatever happens, happens. I mean, it's not up to me to judge. I mean, ideally, as I said, I would throw, it's just like the Kobayashi Maru.
Yeah. Yes.
It's like, well, you didn't say we couldn't derail the train, so I would throw the switch halfway and derail the train.
Yep. There's Miss Morgan back.
You're muted again.
Hey, yeah, I was just having equipment issues. I guess I did bring some equipment issues from NRR after all.
Damn it.
But yeah.
you jinxed her, Trist.
I know.
But yeah,
I get that question all the time about the morals. Like it's like, well, how do you have morals? I would be raping and murdering everybody. And I'm like, then please continue to believe in God. If that is what is stopping you from doing that to me, I like my skin on my face.
Well, like Arn Ra has a really good response to that, and I'm paraphrasing. This is basically, I think about raping people 0 times. I think about murdering people 0 times. It's like, it's not even something I even consider. So why would I even, and it's like the guy that said, well, if God told me to, I would kill my kid. It's like, how do you even fucking respond to that? It's like,
well, I mean, isn't that the woman who did that in Texas? Like when she drowned all her kids, and then she was like, well, God told me to do that. Yep. And then they put her on death row. Like,
no,
these same people say the same shit.
She actually was diagnosed as being bipolar. She's in a mental institution.
Yeah.
So
I thought initially she was put on. They were trying to get her the death penalty, but
she wasn't. Yeah. But I guess I'm doing this from memory. I don't know if she had a new trial or new information came out that that the death penalty would not, because she was determined to be mentally ill. But that whole situation, I think, in Yates is, I mean, you have the doctor, his inaction for allowing her to be off her medication. You have her fucking husband at the time who was like, who knew she was having issues. But like you said, I mean, there's numerous cases where parents who have done like exorcisms, I there was a whole gamut of them a couple years ago, where there was like from January to May, I think I was writing about one a week where a parent said they heard the voice of God and they had to exorcise their children, and in the process killed them, and thought nothing of it at the time. I don't know what they think now, obviously, but it's like, but theists don't see an issue with that, or they usually come back, oh, they weren't the right kind of Christian. It would.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, and who are you to judge? What morals are you judging them by? Because they're getting their information out of the same fucking book that you are.
And as I said before, Morgan, I said we look at what's harmful in terms of what's harmful to other people, whereas theists look at harmful as what might piss off God.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, what would harm us collectively or individually or the planet or things like that, or just
they don't give a shit
of that nature, like harm anything else.
Yeah. And they tend to take it one further, where they will, like, if you look at things historically, like witch trials and that sort of thing, where the perceived actions of other people they see as a danger to themselves, because they think God's going to hurt them for something someone else did, which, if you think about it, that's a pretty shitty ass God. It's like, oh,
well,
your neighbor had sex before marriage. Yeah, well, I'm going to kill all your crops and starve you to death. So there, meh.
And it goes even a step further than that. There's some Christians that actually want the world to end because they are like, oh, well, then Jesus will come back. And that's why they want like all this stuff, all this bad stuff to happen. Like, particularly, that's why they're obsessed with Israel and all this nonsense in the Middle East and everything, because they're like, oh, well, if it all falls apart, then Jesus comes back. And I'm like, hey, buddy.
And she froze. Oh, no.
I me to be, but in general I do. So how about we just chill out and just hang out on the planet for a little bit?
Yep.
And that's one of the points I made, back when I was talking more about the theocracy, is this whole Armageddon, this whole second coming thing is part of the Reich's policy. They are, listen to Michelle Bachmann in her heyday. I mean, listen to Sarah Palin in her heyday. They were literally trying to force the second coming of Christ. That's why this red heifer that was allegedly born in Israel is such a big deal. This is why moving the consulate to Jerusalem.
See, this is what makes me laugh, because we used to breed beef cattle, and I can remember lots of red heifers.
Yeah. Well, there's some weird prophecy. I don't remember it specifically, so I'm not going to try to say what it is, but that deals with the birth of a red cow or something. But it's like, that's why moving our consulate to Jerusalem was such a big deal, because it fulfills a second coming so-called prophecy. And that's why having the Dayglow man is so important to the Reich, because he's going to do whatever they tell him to force this second coming notion. That's why they don't care about climate change. They could give two flying fucks about climate change. That's why they have a scorched earth policy in regards to mining coal, and they don't care, because they're planning on the second coming in their lifetime. But if you go by their book, it states nobody knows but the Father. Christ didn't even know. if you look at Paul's, he, especially when they use 2 Thessalonians 3:10, they use against SNAP, he who doesn't work doesn't eat. That was in regards to the church. Some of the members of that church were being lazy because they thought the second coming was coming in their lifetime. That was 2,000 fucking years ago. So even, Christ even look at his that are printed, that are in the Bible. He was preaching a second, that his second coming would be in the apostles' lifetime. Well, he wasn't right either, and he's supposedly God, so he should have known. So that's why I, even as a believer, I stopped believing in the Trinity and talk about heresy, because if you think about it, if Christ, who is God, did not know when his second coming was, how could he be God? So it just totally destroys the Trinity argument. There was a lot more to it, but yeah. And that's why I laugh when theists start quoting scripture. It's like, have you actually read your book?
Most of them haven't. We know this.
My favorite comeback to that, though, is it's like, well, which version are you speaking of? Because, as you've heard me say, I have so many different versions of the Bible, going all the way back to the Dewey Reeves and the original 1611, which is really difficult to read, by the way.
I believe it, because remember, my Quran is written in that shit.
Yeah.
Reproduceth anyone?
Yeah. But that was, the English language back then. And that's the thing. They'll take words, the whole, oh, you're taking it out of context. I don't know how to phrase that. Well, back in 1611, when this was written, that word didn't mean what you're trying to make it to mean. And if you look, like, my best example that I always use is, if you look at the words that are translated into homosexuality, first of all, homosexuality as a term didn't even exist in the Bible until during the Red Scare, that era. But you can go back and change in word meanings throughout centuries until it finally reaches that 1955-ish, and it starts to lean towards homosexuality as we know it today. But what we think of homosexuality today is not what they thought of back then. It was pederasty, the Roman cultural. It's like, yeah. Deb?
Yes. So, what?
Hey, look like you're reading.
Well, no, I was scrolling looking for stupid questions from any of the groups while we were waiting.
There we go.
Except,
crazy groups.
Well, it's one of these things, because normally I'll be looking at my news feed and I'll see ridiculous question after ridiculous question from multiple groups. And then when I want to find stupid questions, I don't see any.
Yeah. Well, I think most of the stupid questions, and I'm going to be very non-PC, come from certain countries. And they come at what would be our normal bedtime, although Deb and I are not normal. Yeah. So we see a lot of the normal people who sleep regular hours are up. They're in bed.
Yeah.
So.
That's true. But I was just finding it a little frustrating. Although, one thing I will say, lately, and I mean over like the last 4 or 5 months, there's been this huge influx in these groups and like multiple sort of theist versus atheist debate groups of theists just with the most ridiculous, like not even like your normal stupid theist question, but like beyond ridiculous, like why do atheists never get dates, or why are atheists all everywhere? Why are atheists all have small penises? Like it's come on.
And it's not even really trolling in a sense. It's just they're just fucking retarded. And I mean, I hate using that word, but it's just like it's just so backwards. And it's like, seriously, you went to fucking school?
Yeah.
You haven't.
And put it, and the worst part is like a lot of the people posting these, English is not their first language, so the syntax is terrible. But it's just like, come on. Even my thing is, so, or they'll put up a picture of somebody they think is really ugly, and they'll be like, this is what atheists all look like.
Yeah, that one. It's like the one time they put up it was a. I'm trying to remember now. It's been so long ago, but they put up a thing about. Oh, they put up a guy that had a lot of body modifications and tattoos on, especially.
Yeah, where he's got like 100 piercings on his face, and he's tattooed,
like so.
And he's got like the subcutaneous bumps, and
yeah, I did a reverse search on the image, and I don't know if it's the same image we're both thinking of, but and it turns out that he actually claims Christianity.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and he's actually a preacher, a street preacher type.
Oh, fuck.
So I said, well, why are you bashing another Christian? He's not Christian. It's like, yeah, according to his profile, he is. Here's his website. It's like they make these assumptions about us that are so bizarre. It's like, how do you?
My point is, okay, even if, and I actually one of these days I want to like do a post, but I have to try and remember all of the stupid things they said. So like, even if atheists are all ugly and single and can't get a date and can't spell and this, that, and the other thing, it doesn't mean we're wrong, shithead.
Exactly. Just
That's
because
when I'm
as gorgeous as somebody else doesn't mean that our argument.
When I'm in an argument with someone and they come out with "you're fat," and I'm like, and that makes me wrong. How?
Yeah. Well, there was one today. I'm trying to find my response, but I wish you guys keep going. I'm looking for it.
Yeah, I tell you, every time I want stupid questions, they all seem to vanish.
Well, trying to find anything on my timeline, and it was only a 2-word response, so it's like, yeah, I know.
Well, I would also get like, aren't you afraid of hell? Because like they scare us so much with hell, especially in Southern Baptist sects. Like they even do around Halloween, because Halloween's coming up. They'll even do like those things where like you'll go into this church and it's like their version of a haunted house, but it's like what is in hell, and it'll be like celebrities that are all in hell, and like it'll be like a bunch of teenagers getting a DUI and they get in a wreck and they all go to hell and all this,
or they'll
shit.
mimic like this horrible abortion scene. I've heard before. Yeah, it's like, they'll have like doll parts all over the place and blood everywhere. Ugh.
Yeah, it's fucking. Yeah. I never went to one because my dad was like, "What the fuck?"
They call them a hell house.
Yeah, the hell.
Yes, that's what it is. The hell houses. Yeah, but yeah, I get like this whole like, "Aren't you afraid of going to hell?" And I'm like, first of all, I think that if hell were real, that's where pretty much all the awesome people are gonna be. Like that's where all my friends are gonna go and like I'm just gonna bust up in that bitch and I'm just gonna take my bra off and be like, what's a Wi-Fi password? I'm gonna tell Satan to get out of my fucking throne. And then second of all, like I don't believe in it. So again, I cannot be scared of something I don't believe in.
I'd be like, well, aren't you afraid of not going to Valhalla?
Yeah, like
or you know, hat tip to Callie again. Aren't you afraid of not making it into Stovacor?
or the what is it, the really uncomfortable couches you get in the Quran
Oh yeah,
with the jewels and all that. They sound so uncomfortable. It's like sitting on a couch of diamonds. It's like I don't think that'd be great for my back. But
and you'd end up with diamond prints all over your ass.
yeah, that'd be very interesting, but I don't think that would be the most attractive thing in the world. It'd be cool for 5 seconds.
If you sit on a textured lawn chair while you're wearing a bathing suit and then you get up like 3 hours later and you have like stripes and polka dots and shit stuck on your ass.
Yeah, it's very detracting.
When you get up from that shit hurts too.
Yeah. Also, like if I don't wear my shorts go to my knees, even on my chair for the computer. I have just this plain old wooden chair, nothing fancy. I stick to the chair and I'm like, oh man.
Yep.
It's like, yeah, I forgot to put my hands on.
Sticking to a hot vinyl car seat.
Yeah, I don't know what it is here with this, but yeah, I found that post. Now, bear in mind, English is not the first language of this poster, so it's going to be kind of hard to read. The only thing that can convert an atheist to a believer is through near-death experience. After experiencing near-death, most people, most non-believers, replenished their souls and offer themselves to God for giving them a second chance. My simple response to that was, I didn't.
Yeah, me neither.
I don't know. I don't know any personally. I think there are a few that have written about it. While I wouldn't say like my strokes were near death, I have had a quote near, and it was just pitch black.
Yeah.
I saw nothing. I felt nothing. And I've had one as a believer, which kind of baffled me. And then I had one as a non-believer. And it's like, there was no difference. Because one of the theories about near-death experiences, and I want to say it was Michael Shermer, but I may be wrong on who debunked Evan Alexander. And you have those type of experiences, whatever cultural influence you have, that is what you are going to see. So if you're raised Muslim, you are most likely going to see Allah. If you are raised Christian, you are going to see Jesus or whatever, or your family that's supposedly in heaven. And each culture will have their influences. And it's basically what they say is due to lack of oxygen, going to your brain and you're hallucinating. And, it's like, no, I didn't see anything. I mean, it was just pitch black. I remember going in and out of consciousness at one point. But that's it. I didn't experience anything. And it did not make me question or change my belief, especially when I was a non-believer. It did not make me question my decision to become an atheist. And they don't seem to understand that. And it's like, just by making that type of statement / question, and like as you're saying, the stupid questions they ask, when you can say, whole atheist, like, well, no, I'm an atheist, and that did not happen to me. And there's quite a few responses basically saying the same thing.
And along that line, one that I've seen in the groups a lot is, why do atheists worship evolution? I'm like,
that's another, or worship science.
Worship science. I don't care about evolution. I accept evolution. It has nothing to do with anything else in my life. I was an atheist for 17 years before I even thought about evolution. So it has no bearing on it. And I don't particularly even enjoy or like science that much. It's a necessity and I appreciate what it does, but I don't particularly like it. I certainly
it's like
no emotional attachment to it.
exactly. I mean, yeah, I get a little emotional myself concerning science topics, but it's like I was telling a friend of mine down at work. It's just like I love physics. I don't understand it. I've tried and tried, but
I don't even have that much of a and what I always say to people is, okay, I accept evolution. There's virtually ironclad evidence for it, but theoretically, if it could be proven wrong tomorrow, I would still be an atheist.
Exactly.
I would just be like, okay, so it's not evolution. Let me know when you find out what it was.
Well, yeah, and the thing is, they think that science, specifically evolution, addresses the notion of God's existence, and that's where they're wrong. Science gives two shits about whether God exists or not. Science is concerned with science. The God question is not applicable to science. And there was an article I read a while back for a rebuttal I did, and it basically said, science doesn't concentrate on the metaphysical because there's no means to do so. I mean, we have nothing in science because the whole notion of, this God concept, they make it so that the science just isn't good enough. Well, if the science isn't good enough, then we can't test it. We can't, whatever. So it becomes just a revolving door question. Anytime we get something that might, and I'm saying theoretically, dispute the concept of God, science isn't good enough. And that, it's just
my favorite one. Science changes all the time. It's not reliable.
Yeah, you better hope science changes, because we still be having leeches, although they do use it, sucking the blood out of your system.
Or we would be still using the four humors theory.
Yeah.
Which killed a lot of people. And people might still think that, ingesting mercury is a good treatment for syphilis.
My favorite is when they say, well, science always changes as an argument, but yet they're wearing glasses.
Yes.
And, well, that's applied science. I'm like, it's still fucking science.
Back to the every atheist who's had a near-death experience will go back to religion. Clockwork Rex is back, and he says near death is an actual death, though. So there's the first mistake they made, which is very, very true. When people talk about NDEs and then they're like, "Oh, so and so died and came back to," I'm like, no, they weren't dead.
Yeah, if you came back from being dead, you weren't dead. Because
there's never, ever been a proven case of anyone who was actually dead and came back to life.
Yes.
No, the boy from heaven is for real, Deb.
According to his dad.
Yeah, except the kid disagrees.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Well, it's funny, when I was still doing paranormal stuff, one of our guests on the show, on my show, happened to be Eben Alexander, and it was really hard and he actually ended up hanging up, because I asked him, because I had read my Kirk. I think it was Shermer. I could be wrong on that. I'm trying. Who was the other one? No, it's Michael Shermer. I think it's Sam Harris. But I had read Shermer's stuff, and it's like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And coming from a medical standpoint, parts of his story were, I don't know if implausible is the right word, but didn't make sense from a medical standpoint when you had like even his doctor's notes didn't agree with his analysis of him being dead. It's like that's like nobody. I mean, I got into Robert Moody's stuff, and it's like even his research was all anecdotal. It was all based on self-reports. There was really no actual medical evidence to prove that these people literally died.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter if you think they're dead. So here's how I would be impressed, okay? If you had somebody who had gone through rigor mortis, who, started to decompose, and that got reversed. And that, if that could be reversed and then turned back to the way they were before they died, and, get up and be the same as they always were, that I could get behind. But you'd have to have good, Rex says zombies. But if you could had good proof, like you documented the whole process, and you could show that the person had, started to decompose, and they'd gone through the common stages that a dead body goes through, right? Because like in the Bible, they talk about like how many fucking days was Lazarus supposed to be dead. He was like wrapped up in a tomb and shit. And you're not fresh at that point, okay? Like you're just not.
Well, that was the argument Jahai McGrath's family used. And they actually, and this brings up a question that is debated within the medical community as what constitutes death, because this doctor who was consulting or treating, however you want to use the word, the family basically believed that she was not dead, that she was in a very deep vegetative coma with some, but modern medical said she was basically, she was dead. And the machines were the only thing keeping her alive, and she has since passed. She died about a year ago-ish. And, and that's the thing, this whole, and I find it really bizarre that they talk about NDEs, because it's like, they should be happy when people die. They should be joyous and excited.
I know, and I never understood that either.
Go up into the mansion in heaven and frolic around with and great grandma that they never met and have no fucking clue who they are. It's like, but yet, and it's funny too that they talk about like NDEs, and recently I ran into one who claims to be Christian, but yet believes in reincarnation. And I point blank asked them, I said, well, why are you not celebrating the death of your loved ones? You should be happy they're dead, because, yada, yada, yada. And they're like, no answer. It's like, you're sitting here talking about near-death experiences and reincarnation, but yet I said, you're contradicting yourself within the same sentence.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I never have looked into it. Allegedly, there was a verse in the Bible that spoke to reincarnation but was removed. I don't know if that's true or not. Yeah. It's not something I've ever looked into. I don't plan on it, although maybe I will. But it's like, But yet you claim that the 1611 Bible is perfect. It's God's word. It's the only Bible. It's not in there.
Yep. Ooh, I finally found one.
Oh.
Why do atheists force Muslims to become atheist?
I don't force anyone.
Exactly.
Ever.
That doesn't happen. Before that, there was another good one too. Dear atheist, how are you born?
Same way you are, fucknuts.
Like with a vagina? Or a womb, at least.
I said, there's this little dick about 3 inches long that goes in there.
This is how stupid some of these are.
And they wonder, probably pose or, trolls. But it's like, and people wonder why we just shake our heads at theists when they come up with the most asinine.
Oh, here's a good one.
Funny, or they think they're being critical or smart, that we've destroyed the Christian.
Yes, the atheist. Oh, this will make you laugh. How much is an average white atheist slut? Post your best offer.
I'm sorry, what?
Well, honey child.
Is an average white atheist slut? Post your best offer.
Well, honey child, you wouldn't be able to afford me.
Nope.
I mean, times are rough, so maybe on me, but...
Oh, and he was such a wiener, he couldn't even, actually write out slut. He had to put an asterisk in it.
Well. That don't impress me much, as the great Shania Twain said.
So much fun of theists. And yeah, I'm all for general conversation, very swipes like this. And it's like, really? Or you'll go through this whole long diatribe. I think you did that once with one of our Muslim guys in the group. You went through, I think it was like a 3 or 4 hour post, and then he comes back with some totally stupid comment. And I think you PM'd me and he goes, why do I even bother? It's like, it's disheartening that you go to that effort, just, even if it's out of fun, and then they come back with some fucked up comment like, how much the, my favorite hour when you get the wanting sex boy toy Jan.
Yeah. My stupid stalker. He's actually been gone for a while now, thankfully. But well, I posted screenshots of him being rude and obnoxious again, so he blocked me for the second time. It just makes me laugh. It's like, okay, so the first time you said that atheists are sexually immoral, I posted screenshots of you trying to convince me that I should sleep with you even though I'm not single, and that you didn't care that I had a husband and all this shit. And you got mad and you blocked me. Then you come back, and the second time that you post that atheists are sexually immoral, what the fuck did you think I was gonna do?
Exactly.
Come on, buddy.
Oh, that's so wild.
I think we should close out with the probably the most heard and obnoxious question of them all. What if you're wrong?
Oh, well.
But like I said, I'll be in hell with you guys.
Yep.
My longer answer that would be, if I had the ability to question God about his existence, I'd be like, why did you hide?
Yeah.
because he has given no indication in my lifetime that he truly exists beyond wooey, fuzzy little believers feeling.
My feels.
Exactly.
I don't give a fuck about your feels, okay?
Yeah, I mean, and when I actually realized that everything that I quote felt was like chemicals in my brain.
Well, I figured out I could make myself feel that way whenever I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, damn, okay.
Yeah, just go 3 days without sleep and get manic.
Well, nah, I didn't have to go quite that far, but you know.
Yeah, when you're bipolar, that kind of helps.
It does.
Yeah, it's like once I realized that, and this was long before I was diagnosed with bipolar, it was like, yeah, maybe this isn't so real after all. Granted, it took me a while, but yeah, and it's like, and I said, you know, if I'm wrong, so be it. There's nothing I can do about it now. But I would ask, you know, why did you hide? Why did you not make it? I mean, you know, if you're everything your little minions tell me you are, then you should have known that there would be people like me questioning whether you actually exist or not.
Yeah. Well, as Rex put it, God should know what would convince me, but hasn't done it yet. Therefore, not my fault.
Exactly.
Yep. Oh, here's a couple other good ones. Why does atheists commit suicide for no reasons?
For no reason. Yep, that's why people kill themselves. No reason at all.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we think the pain is just totally unbearable and nothing that we or anybody else can do can make it coming from a survivor.
Well, I think that one has a little bit to do too with the notion that, well, if you don't have somebody to dictate your purpose in life, your life has no meaning and therefore you should just die. Because I've had people like, well, if you don't have, you know, God to give you meaning in your life, you should just kill yourself. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Well, I think that comes down to also we as individuals and not necessarily theists or atheists, we have to learn that our purpose is not from somebody else, but something within ourselves. Yeah. And sometimes some of us don't learn that until regretfully it's too late. Yeah. Some of us get a second chance or a third chance or a fourth chance or a fifth chance.
Yeah.
It took me a long time to learn that my purpose was not wrapped up in my religion, was not wrapped up into my belief in God.
I'm lucky because I never thought that. Like, even when I was really religious, I didn't. But then again, I was never one to sit there and be like, I need like some lofty extraneous purpose to my existence. I never even gave it a second thought.
Well, I mean, if we want to go totally psych on this, it's like I was always told that I was worthless, that my life had no purpose. I mean, and that's coming from my parents. I was told that I was a dumb fuck. Although my mom never quite used those words because she didn't really swear. She swore once in my life, and I stood there with my mouth on the floor. I was in shock. But I was the type, and this is, you know, as I said, was before I was diagnosed with bipolar, which hindsight has given me the insight to realize that, I internalized all this. That's why I became a cutter. I internalized my anger. I internalized this rage that I had. I mean, the only thing I ever saw, I mean, my parents were affectionate to a degree, but they were not overly affectionate, where I know people that are overly affectionate and are constantly telling each other that they love you and, you know, yada, yada, yada. And to me, that's really foreign. Well, when you don't grow up with that, and the only time I saw my dad express emotion was when he was beating the fuck out of me. So I internalized it. So until I learned, and this is something you do have to learn, that you don't need purpose from God, Krishna, whatever. Your life is going to seem meaningless, and sometimes facing that as an atheist, even as an atheist, your things are going to overtake you. And especially if you already have a mental illness and are prone to depression, it's going to make it 10 times harder. And I find those type of questions from the theists, I find them very crass, and I find them very demeaning, because they're not taking into consideration the struggles that you and I, or anyone among our group of friends, that we know and don't know, who may be struggling. I mean, asking that type of stupid question, you catch the wrong person at the wrong time.
Yeah.
You might drive them over the edge. Like, I've told the story about the guy that said that I should kill myself. And I just looked at him and said, good, go get me a gun. I'll let you watch. Needless to say, he just slowly backed away. But I was in the right state of mind that I was like, fuck you. But that's not what was going to happen. And I think when you question a person's purpose or meaning, whatever you want to call it, you are questioning their existence and telling them they should not exist because you don't know what you want to do with your life.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm very happy being a dishwasher, doing what I'm doing, because it gives me time to do stuff that I enjoy, like fucking around on the computer 24 hours a day. My bills are still paid. Well, kind of. But I do what I want to do because I want to do it. If I don't want to do it, I don't do it. And, I don't need Deb or Morgan or, Dave or any of my other friends to tell me what's good or bad in my life. I can figure that out myself. I don't need God to tell me.
Exactly. Well, and I think that's a good spot to wrap things up. I think we're about out of time anyway. So thanks everybody, and everybody over in the chat. Oh, wait a minute. Randy just asked, does Canada have better mental health because it has less religion, or maybe because of better healthcare? Yeah, no. The stigma does its work up here too. So most mental health resources are not covered by healthcare, and it's the less religiosity doesn't really seem to play into it. It's just the overall stigma. But yeah. And Rex says, farming lets me imagine I'm secretly a druid.
Oh, there you go.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's actually kind of cool.
There you go.
But
anyway, yeah, Beth, you want to tell everybody where they can find you?
Easiest way is on Twitter. It's doing 9998, and I post the articles, and I kind of took a break from the religious and political bullshit because I was like, yeah. But also I've been focusing on poop cult.
Your friend Jillian?
Yeah. Yeah. But that connects to my blog, which is Havoc and Chaos, and I have been posting this today. I started again posting some articles concerning pedophile priests and those that like to diddle little children and use religion to justify it. And there's quite a few stories that have come out. And also I've been posting about Jillian over there. And then you can also find me on Facebook. That's under Beth A. Hambridge. If you do send me a friend request, if any way possible, send me a message that is show related, or most likely I will delete you unless you have common friends, i.e. Deb. I always look to see, are they friends with Deb? Nope. Okay. Put them on hold. I don't delete them right away.
Or I'll get a, hey Deb, who the hell is this person?
Yeah, if y'all like change your name, and I'm not speaking to you, Tris, kind of tell me, because like I have 5 different profiles for. I have no fucking profile views when I message them. So, like, delete your other ones or something, because it's getting really confusing. I have probably 7 or 8 friends that have multiple profiles. I know I do, but I only use my other profile as an emergency. But it's like, yeah, it's getting really confusing with those of you that have multiple profiles.
Yeah. And Randy says there's a Dune movie coming out in 2019.
Yes, and we'll see what it does. I'm excited. There's also a couple of new Dune books coming out, although I'm behind.
Awesome.
I've read them, but I don't have them.
Gotcha.
So.
And Morgan, where do we find you?
All right, you can find me on the Bi Skeptical podcast of Tristan Mamone on iTunes, Spreaker, and Stitcher. You can also find me on Twitter and Instagram at Mostring. That's Mostring. You can also find me on Facebook at Morgan L. Stringer.
Awesome. And the fabulous Tris is over in the chat. At least they were earlier. I don't know if they've gone off to bed yet, but yeah.
And I highly suggest you follow Morgan on Twitter because she puts out some pretty funny tweets and some pretty awesome tweets as well.
Uh-huh. And she posts some pretty awesome pictures on Instagram too, you know.
I have Instagram, but I haven't quite figured out how to use it.
It's not very intuitive. I don't actually like it very much at all.
Yeah. But I don't remember why I got it. I just did it like a week or 2
ago. I got it because when we had Rico, Apostate Prophet, on, he was mostly using Instagram for his messaging. And so it was just easier for me to communicate with him. And then his lovely Muslim followers got him banned from Instagram. So now I don't actually need it.
Yeah, I think something I was looking up was only on Instagram, and I couldn't access it without joining. So I was like, and then I was like, fiddle farting around with it. I'm like, how the fuck does this even work? So.
It's not very intuitive at all, but it's it's got its upsides. So there's that.
Yeah.
But anyway, you can find us here again next week. We'll let you know what we come up with. It's just this time of year, I think, and we've all been sort of run down with all the bullshit going on that we haven't been as proactive with planning ahead as we have in the past. But we'll get better. Don't you worry. And I will be appearing on this week's Atheist Manifesto. And I will also be appearing on the next episode of the Right to Reason podcast. So go ahead and if you don't already listen to those folks, please do go sign up for their podcasts. They're great shows. The heavy topics, of course, for both those shows, we're going to be talking about child abuse and how it relates to the news of late. So warning there, but it's good content. I'm really happy with how they both are approaching it. Robert over on Right to Reason, he brought on another fellow survivor, a man. So I thought that was great. And of course, Callie always does a good job of bringing in diverse voices. So please do go check those out. And we will be here, of course, next week. And there will be more Cute Kitten, of course. And yeah, feel free to bring Corgi. We can have a cute off.
Oh yeah, for sure. Oh, also, I was on the Wayward Willis podcast. I believe it's the episode "What Are Atheist Issues?" So check that out.
Excellent. Yes, do that too. Until then, we will be here next week, and I'll leave you with the Human Creed. Have a good one, folks.
I know the truth and power of reason and of rational thinking, and I will use them to my advantage. I know the truth and power of educating myself and of expanding my intellectual boundaries, and I will educate myself. I know the truth and power of vanquishing ignorance. and I will do so whenever the opportunity presents itself. I know the truth and power of morality without supervision, and of true and accurate righteousness. I know the truth and power of obliterating tyranny, be it intellectual, emotional, or philosophical, and will work toward that goal whenever and however possible. I know the truth and power of human ingenuity. I know the truth and power of human compassion, and I will be mindful of the welfare of others. I know the truth and power of equality and fairness for all living things. I know the truth and power of the importance of our families, our friends, and our fellow men and women. I know the truth and power of human stewardship of our lands, our waters, and our skies, and I will try to act to preserve our environment. I know the truth and power of the sciences of mathematics, of physics, and of chemistry, and of the important role of these disciplines in understanding the workings of this cosmos. I know the truth and power of the rejection of all notions or beliefs that reside in the supernatural or the superstitious, and of those notions or beliefs that we are not supposed to be able to explain. And I know that these rejections are necessary for humankind's survival. I am a human being with a free mind, liberated from irrational influence and from unreasonable dogma.